You're building skills, and these are the skills you're building. And this is how this will pay off in the future. So I think it's around when you're young, you just feel when you're at the bottom, you're just being trodden on all the time. And maybe that is the case at some point. But if you knew you were skill building and you knew that those were rungs on the ladder and that you were progressing in some way, then you wouldn't feel as if you hate Mondays or you're wasting your time or you're rotting in this job or whatever it is. And maybe you'd advance up the ladder even further.
David, I have been looking forward to this conversation for a long time. I have been following your work for, I don't know, could I say a decade? Probably. I don't know how long. So I'm really looking forward to getting to know a little bit more about you. For those listening who don't know you, give us the short story.
Thanks, Candice. It's a pleasure to join you. So the short story is that I am Chief Learning Officer at 360Learning and have been since the end of 2021, when the good folks at 360Learning decided to buy my learning platform, Loop, for which I was one of the co-founders. But if I rewind, I do a bit of a Pulp Fiction. We'll start at the end, we'll go to the beginning, and so on. So I did that at Loop for a while, but prior to that, I was Director of Learning Talent and OD at the Walt Disney Company, which I'm sure that we can get to and explore. But as well as all of that, I'm host of the Learning and Development podcast. I'm sure that's where folks will know me from. And I look to make a lot of noise in the learning and development space because, like you, Candice, I believe that we can all achieve a lot more if we can take the collective wisdom of what everybody's doing well and approach it in a similar vein.
Yes, I love that. And I love how you said it. I want to make a lot of noise. Yes to that. So that's awesome. All right. So, David, always my favorite part of the show is traveling all the way back in time. And now I'm talking young you. I don't know how old you were, maybe 12, maybe 20. When was that first job? What did you do for money? And, we love to hear some stories.
So my very first job, I stacked shelves at a local independent supermarket. So this would have been in the late 1980s, and I would have been around about 14. But Candice, I was only earning pin money so I could buy myself another guitar because I knew I was going to be a pop star. And I'd known since I was probably about 5 or 6. I didn't just want to be any pop star, Candice. I wanted to be Adamant. And I think that I dedicated far too many years to plotting my route to becoming Adamant part 2. So I stacked shelves on, I think it was a Tuesday and a Thursday to collect little bits of money because I knew the guitar that I wanted and I was saving hard for that beautiful dream.
Oh, I love that so much. We have to get more into that because I love those dreams. Yeah, and I actually share something. I wanted to also be a singer, be on the stage, and I still do. I still want to be like the person. I just feel like, what it would be like to be Ed Sheeran, just listening to so many people sing your songs. I mean, it's amazing. But we're in learning and development instead, which is as cool, I think. It's like, it's almost equal. Okay, but now we need to get into this. So you're working, you're packing shelves. Any stories that come to mind? Like, were there any days when you just thought, I'm 14. This is what's happening?
So I'd say that there was a nice amount of camaraderie. There was an older lady worked there who showed us the ropes. And whilst the job was very dull, I think it was for 2 or 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours a night. It was the camaraderie got me through. And I think that at the time it felt cheeky. And of course, I'm 14, so you feel as if you're doing something wrong. But in hindsight, I think that you realise it's that camaraderie gets you through the great jobs and the bad jobs. I don't remember too many stories. Perhaps not everything made its way to the shelf. Candies, if I remember when I was 14, and maybe the odd sweet ended up being consumed. Very, very, very different days. Of course, I'm not sure we'd get away with that right now. Um, and my sister did. I think I did Tuesday and Thursday. But I think my sister might have done Wednesday and Friday because it really was just around the corner. So again, there was camaraderie that my sister was going through a similar thing. My sister is 17 months younger than me, so we were always really close. I think when I look back, and we'll touch on this in a moment, I left school and started work at 16. But when I look and I think of that time as a 14-year-old when I was doing that, it feels like decades before I was working. I think that's just something to do with how time is skewed and how I didn't really take it seriously. It was just something that I felt pressurized into doing by my parents. You kind of been told that it was the right thing to do, and it doesn't feel like it. And so you're just sort of muddling through. But I think that I've not thought about that job for decades, Candice. I think that it is one of those first moments that frames what work is, how it performs, and perhaps the genesis of some of the skills that I lean on so heavily today.
Yeah, I love that. I love the camaraderie and the sweets.
Mm.
Very, very different times for sure. All right, and then your sister. I didn't know that you were so close. That's
Mm.
very cool. So, no, your mom had a hard time, but we won't get into that. So now tell me, you said you left school at
Mm.
16. Is that when you went to become a guitar player? Is that like because
Do
we
you know
need
what?
to
There was we need to get there, do we? So I spent my teens learning to play guitar and writing songs. I just knew that's what I wanted to do. But at the same time, I I think in the Easter of 1990. So this was my last school holiday. I had some work experience as a junior barrister's clerk in central London. My uncle worked there and just got me a placement. And again, it was the office was such a laugh. To paint a picture though, Candice, there was one computer in the entire office, and it wasn't on my desk. So it was old files. My job was to go to the document exchange, bring back the court files. You'd help to sort them, give them to the senior barristers clerks, and you'd be packaging them up, and you'll be taking files to the Royal Courts of Justice, which was just a few hundred yards away, to give to the barristers. And I think it was a fun job. It was as I said, the camaraderie got me through. I was there 2 weeks, but that's what I thought I'd do afterwards. So I finished my last exams in June 1990. The week after, I started as a junior barrister's clerk, which didn't go so well. I didn't enjoy it when it was a full-time job, and it lasted 3 months, even though I did love being up in the big smoke because we were from a small village outside, about 30, 40 miles outside of London. At that time, guitar was a bit of a hobby. I couldn't see how I'd go from playing in my bedroom to being on stage. There was this huge unknown that I couldn't bridge. But my career took a bit of a step back from a career at 16. It's so daft, isn't it, Candice? I wasn't a career. I was job hopping. I
just
was
step
job
back?
hopping.
Just step
And I ended up getting a job in a bank in our village. And I ended up being there 6 years. But here's the caveat. So I was just a cashier there, but that's when I was trying to do the music. When I passed my driving test, I started mixing with other people from school who also played guitar. Then my sister got a boyfriend on our street who played bass and introduced me to all of his friends. And then within a year, I'm the singer-songwriter and main guy in this band with all these friends that I'd made in that year. And I was head down. That's what I was going to do. And then the bank job was the money to buy equipment, to put petrol in the car, to buy a car, and to get us around to gigs. But if I remember, Candice, the patience of the bank manager as I grew my hair out, and then 1991 was a very different time, a lot more conservative. I was asking for afternoons off to travel all around the outskirts of London, not just playing in bands, but also following other bands. And I don't know why they put up with me. I have no idea. I just thank them very much for doing so, because I think that getting the boot at such a young age might have changed my trajectory. And so I spent 5 years pretty much just following that dream. And whilst we played some nice big venues in London and some quite major supports for the time, it didn't really go anywhere. And I think that around about 1996, I just thought, well, I've got to do something else now. And so I packed in the job at the bank and decided to take the summer off and explore my options.
Wow. So it sounds like you had a little bit of a career. Did you make money playing guitar and going to all the gigs? I mean, was it just broke artist?
Well, the funny thing is that I was earning okay money in the bank. It was never going to take me too far. So that was my sensible side. When other members of the band didn't earn so much money, and I think the drummer at the time wasn't working at all. We all had our dream that that's what we really wanted to do. So the bank job bankrolled my band endeavour, and we got paid a few quid, but it was much more around the being on stage and living the dream. I think that the distance between playing guitar on my own in my bedroom, writing songs, to being on stage playing in front of 200 people was such a short gap. It was a whirlwind, and it was almost as if, and there is kind of this theme that goes through my life a little bit. It sounds a bit freakish. I do feel charmed. I do feel as if there was just this, some kind of guiding hand that put pieces together. And I, whilst I don't know what it is, and I don't fully believe in it, Candice, I do feel blessed with a lot of what I've experienced and the stuff that comes to be later in my story. But how that all happened by my sister dating this guy, and introduced to all these people, it was like, in those movies, or maybe even in nightmares, when you're walking, where you almost like you walk through a door and then you're in a corridor and there are loads of other doors, and then you open another door and it's a completely different world. It felt like that.
Yes. Wow. That's very cool. I'm so glad you got to do that. I mean, that must be just some of your fondest memories, and like that makes it feel possible. Like, I have this dream and it's possible. So even just that mindset, I'm sure, has stuck with you since then. All right. So now band day's done. Did you have to, what happened next?
So it kind of stuttered to a stop with trying to form other bands and meeting other people, rehearsing for a bit, and then it not working out. And I think I ran out of energy and fell out of love with that world. So I took the summer off. I think that was. I might have said it was 96. I think it was actually 1997, and I didn't have any work. And again, these are the days we used to live in, Candice. In the local paper, there was a little box that said looking for new recruits, blah blah blah. So I phoned this number, and it was for Lloyds Bank. It was credit card collections, and I got through the phone interview. I went for an interview in a local town there, and I got the role. But it wasn't getting the job that started the new career. Before I started, I went on my first ever training course. I went on a 3-week new starter program that took me from knowing absolutely nothing via theory and simulations. I was on the phones 3 weeks later, and I think that formed for me the power of what we do. And also when, jumping ahead a little bit and providing some hindsight, when training doesn't prepare you for the job, and it's left too much to chance, hope, or personal endeavour. I always look back to that experience and think, wow, I was scooped up. I was in 1997. I was 24 years old. I'd the previous working experience just seemed to happen, and I wouldn't call myself a professional by any regards. I mean, this was the moment that the page turned for sure. But but going on that training course, being actually equipped, and then a year later, being, I just thought there I was, 24, messing around with my colleagues, do it like in between doing the job. I got tapped on the shoulder and said, "Your team leader material. We're going to send you on another course." The way that you go, "Me? What have I done?" and that was the moment where I just again charmed. Like I didn't think I was doing anything that warranted that. And then I went on another training course, Candice, and that was the one that I went, "Wait a minute, is that a job? Is what that guy's there doing a job? I want that." And that was the moment that changed my career.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I love that story so much. And you're actually making me reminisce even because I moved to London when I was 18 and we also had to use the paper and make the phone calls, like go to the red booth because we didn't even have phones. So they're like, like, "Can you hire us?"
So funny, isn't it? When you think that now people today go through these applicant filtering systems,
Yes.
and we used to phone up and then actually get a job. It's just so bizarre.
That is true. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I've actually got that story written down of my friend and I. We walked through, we lived in Zone 5 London, so we caught the Metropolitan line down to Baker Street, and then we just walked. So we were like, what's in walking distance? And then we got a job like that. It's nuts. But on it, like, maybe that's what we need to go back to. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So you did. And actually, I have the same story of someone standing in front of me doing the learning, and I was like, yeah, that.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I love that. It's almost like love at first sight. I feel like that's how I felt about this profession. As soon as I knew about it, I was like, yes, this is it. All right. So that happened to you. So you're training a team lead, Lloyd's Bank. You see the training person, you're like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Why did you want to do that? And then how did you get to do that?
Oh, good question. I think it was feeling. I loved the way that I felt in that room. I was learning. So the program was about coaching and feedback, and it was 2 days. And I was learning all about communication styles. And Robin, who was running it, was just so engaging, and everyone was putty in his hands. I remember sitting in these chairs, we were on this crescent, and I'm like, wow. And I remember looking around and everybody else was sort of agog as well. He was a master facilitator, and of course the content was brilliant as well. I stayed behind afterwards and I went, this is brilliant. Can I help? Can I help with this? And Robin was so generous, and he took me under his wing. I then helped him with delivering a few sessions on future programs. He helped me, as well as do my team leader job. I stayed around in the evenings to help to train new starters as well. So when people say to me, and I get calls sometimes with people saying, "How do I get into this profession?" And I say, what I did my day job, and then I did an extra free 3 hours for the company. This is a major brand. They're making a lot of money, and yet they're relying on my freebie in order to get the experience. And then Robin had a role come up in his team, and I applied for it. I got down to the final 2, and I missed out on that role. His feedback to me really stuck with me, and it helped me land the role after. He said that I didn't have enough business anecdotes. Like when I would deliver the training, I delivered it word for word, whereas the person who got the job was a manager or assistant manager, and they had a lot more that would help to land the points. I then had to leave the company. I then knew that that's what I wanted to do. And National Westminster Bank, NatWest Bank, were hiring for a trainer in a new processing centre that they were opening. They already had one trainer. They were looking for another. I interviewed and did a presentation, and I got the role there. I was there 4 years. The other trainer left Candice, and to say that that was the making of me was an understatement.
Okay. Wow. That is good feedback. That is really good
Mm.
feedback. So the other person just had more, like, they could relate more to, yeah, I love that.
It was
Okay.
a real reason, Candice.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah. That's what
Sometimes
I'm like.
sometimes we think, oh, there was just another candidate, but
Mhm.
Robin actually he knew why, and that helped me so
Mm,
much.
oh, I love that. That is good feedback. There is nothing
Mm.
like it. Nothing. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that story. Okay, so now you're at NatWest, right? NatWest,
Mhm.
yes. That was my bank. So now you're training all the people. Your first job, you said, when the other trainer left, that was the making of you.
Mm.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so it was a really small part of NatWest, and it was all around check processing. For the youngsters listening, we used to write checks,
We still write
and they
checks in
we
America.
still write checks. Okay, we still write
I
checks.
wrote my first check when I was 36 years old because I moved to America
Really?
and then had to learn how to write checks. So
Right.
we still
Okay.
write
Okay. It's
checks.
still relevant. It's still relevant. So
Still
this
write
check
checks.
processing
Yes.
centre was opened up in Southend where I was living, and my job was to do the 2 week induction program. So when I came on, Lauren delivered it, and I shadowed her. Then I took that over. Lauren then moved on to projects before leaving the company, and then the learning and development department was mine, or the training development department. So I delivered that induction. Then when we were at the right amount of capacity, that reduced. I then moved on to core professional skills development. I opened its first learning library with e-learning CD-ROMs. I was brought in to do some customer service training. I did some leadership development that took me all across the country to other parts of NatWest as well. I knew I was good at this stuff. I'd get a good reaction in the room, but I was also getting employee awards. So, but that was happening at Lloyd's as well. I was getting, employee of the year awards, and then it carried on at NatWest. It was like, wait a minute, something's happening here. I think I'm good at this. And there was, as well as really enjoying it and really enjoying the status of the learning function was different from the business. There was senior leadership, there was management, and there was the work. Then there was David and the learning stuff, and it was that could have been my band's name, couldn't it? David and the learning stuff, and it was just fun, and it was alluring, and I did really enjoy it. But 4 years, I felt as if I'd reached my ceiling, and I thought, I need to go back into London, and I need to benchmark myself. I feel good, but I'm not sure how feeling good continues as a career. Because when I looked at NatWest, I thought, well, maybe I could head up HR, but I don't really want to. I just want to know how far can this learning stuff go?
I love that. All right, before we move on, now, because we've spent a lot of time, this is how, like, now you're at least in your 30s, right? So
Mm-hmm.
during this time, what was something that challenged you? Because it feels like, everything was good, and I'm relating so much. I feel like I had very similar. I was also very good. I got to go on all the programs. I, did all the things. What was hard? You like the business side, and then
Mm-hmm.
David and the learning stuff on the other side. Yeah, tell us about some hard days, hard moments,
Mm-hmm.
pushback, or had you not experienced that yet?
No. So I'd say it would. I'd say that my my music history and wanting to progress down that route was me expressing a rebellious side to me. It was the reason I left home prematurely with a boot print on my backside, and it was the reason that maybe what I'm doing now in challenging the status quo. But I was always butting up against the business. I was, like at a time when there was a mandate that everybody has to do the top button up of their shirts. All the boys had to do the top button of the shirts. I just looked and went, really? Is that the biggest problem we're looking to solve right now? So I was always challenging and rattling cages, and I think that's because I was an idealist, but also I was looking to really make a difference to both the business and in L&D. So the challenge for me then was, I mentioned I was there 4 years, and it was comfortable. I was well regarded. I was well rewarded, but I knew I had to get out. And I think that I was such a nerd. I used to get the Fenman catalogs at the time, which was a training company. I used to look through their learning objectives and their course content to fully understand what each of these topic areas meant. I do this in the evenings and weekends. I was a proper learning nerd. I was, I suppose it's the equivalent of working out at home and never going to a gym. You're there going, I feel strong. You're looking at your puny little arms going, they're bigger than they were here, but you're not working out with anyone. You're not. No one's telling you, no, mate. You want to sit there. No one's challenging you. And I think for maybe a year or a year and a half, I'd be telling colleagues, I've got to go. And I get the response again, no, you're doing brilliantly. I'm going, I've got to go. And I think that the challenge for me, Candice, was I was turning up every day, but my head wasn't there, my heart wasn't there. And so for that prolonged period of time, and this is why I'm so generous with my time when people say to me, can I have a chat? I feel stuck in my job. And this is where I go, right, this is what I learned on those days when it was as dull as dishwater, when I was doing the same reps, it was just the same thing over and over and over to burst through, and then knocking on enough doors to externally to get me to where I wanted to be, because I knew I wouldn't run another training function again. I was too green. I didn't have that. I needed to be absorbed into a bigger L&D team where I could just, be part of that, watch and observe what the manager did to grow into that and then become what I became. But I'd say that the day to day, it was fine, Candice, and it was not. There was nothing awful about it, but it's I'm not going anywhere. And to do that for a year and a half after the use by date in any situation can really, you feel that you wear it and it grinds you down. So how you throw off those shackles and then you just go again, you apply for roles despite how you feel about your day to day. Those are the lessons that I learned then that I try now to pass on and go, this is so significant what you're doing now, because your ability to put the trudgery to one side, to present the best you, and personalize your cover letter, personalize your CV for every role, is such an important skill, and you'll do it forever. But the time after next, you won't balk at that. It will just be what you do, and so on.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the even imagery of just removing that cloak, because, yes, I think so many people stay beyond that use by date, as you said.
Yeah.
So many people are scared of what's next. They're scared, or they think, what's wrong with me? Like that's my personal one. It's like, this is good. I'm good. I'm in a good place. Why am I not satisfied? It's like,
Yeah.
but no, we don't need to settle. We can be like, I truly say, you can really look forward to Monday. Like, you can
Hmm.
actually wake up and be like, it's Monday. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, you can feel like that. It's possible. I know.
Mm.
So I love that you did that. So, okay. So you were applying for jobs. You obviously left. So what was
Mm.
next?
So again, a bit of good fortune. A recruiter called Nicola Allen called me up. I haven't spoken to Nicola for a long time, but she returns to my story in such a profound way later. She calls me up, and I'm on the train home from a second interview with a law firm, and I've just met partners, and that seemed to go well. And Nicola called me up, and she said, "David, where are you?" And I went, "Oh, I'm just on the way home. I've just had a second interview. It went really well." And she talked about brilliant salesperson. She said, "Don't say yes to them. I've got something incredible for you." Right? It didn't turn out to be, but she was she positioned it so well. And it was Southern Pacific Mortgage Lenders, which was a uh, one of those high risk mortgage lend firms from the US that crashed the global economy in 2008. So this was 2005, just as Lehman Brothers were looking to acquire them. This is going so well, isn't it? I went for the interviews, and Mark, who interviewed me, was one of the most charismatic guys I've ever met. The L&D manager. And he just went, "We've got this massive budget. This is a brand new function. We're going to have such a great time." And I was like, "Get me on this. Get me on this bus. I want to come with you." And so I did a couple of interviews. Before you knew it, I was in the team, and we did have a ball. They had a massive budget. You wonder why the economy crashed. It was the L&D budget at SPML. It was brilliant people, and to say that I benchmarked myself within this team. This team was awesome. Mark had put together such a crack team that was designed to really shake up this business. When I say shake it up, complement it. SPML was shaking up the mortgage industry, so they wanted a learning and development function that was going to support them on that journey. And we had a whale of a time, but that it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. I was there a year, and so I knew I wanted to leave, and one day I got a call from Nicola Allen, who called me up and went, "David, what are you up to?" And I went, "I think I'm done here." She went, "Well, how risky are you feeling?" I was like, "Not too much." She went, "I've got a 3-month contract at Disney. Interested?" And I suppose that begins the next chapter.
Yes. Okay, so this person, she's got your back, it seems.
Exactly. The right person at the right time. Unbelievable luck. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you keep saying this word, luck, but it feels not luck. It
Oh yeah.
feels that
I put myself.
you
I put
enjoyed
myself
what
out
you
there.
did. You showed up. You gave your best. You learned. You like spent 3 hours after work just to learn training at Lloyd's, and then you ran NatWest, and then you got all the awards, and then you studied manuals in your free time. So yes, maybe there's some luck and guidance here, but I also feel like it's your energy for this work. That's what I want to say. Yeah, it's your love for it. I can see it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I'd say, do you know what? To say that, Kenneth, I was probably ready for the opportunities when they arrived. Maybe everybody gets the opportunities, but whether they're ready or not, I don't know. But I do think it's really important to recognise the luck element, because I speak to such good people all the time who tell me they're doing all the right things. There's such application, and so I always say that other ingredients is luck. But maybe what I need to add into that as well is the just be ready when that comes, because if you're not, you'll kick yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So true. And yeah, be open and
Mm.
yeah. All right. I love it. So much going on in my mind. So I just need to regroup because I can go off on a tangent. All right. So regrouping. Disney, 3 month contract. You were there for much
Yeah.
longer than 3 months. Tell us all about it.
So I was there just to launch the new performance management system. So Lisa, who was the L&D manager there, just needed an extra pair of hands to get that going. She and I seemed to have a good chemistry during the interview process. I had just completed my NLP master program. She was into that as well, and we just hit it off in the interview. Phase. So, but 3 months at Lisa's admission was underestimating the amount of work required. So I was extended by an extra 6 months. And during that 6 months, Lisa left. Lisa went on to other things, and I was asked whether I would hold the fort for a while. I did. I was still on a 6 month contract, and when I was offered the position, Jane, who was the new HRD for the UK at Disney, said, "Look, David, there's no delivery involved. I don't want you delivering any training." And I was like, "Oh, that's a shame because that's the bit that I do really love." So in my head, I just thought, well, yeah, I've got nothing else to do, so I'll hold the fort for you. That's perfectly fine. They recruited a new L&D advisor to support me, and me and Gemma really clicked. We really worked out. And then we were out for HR drinks one day, and Gemma said something like, "Why don't you apply for the role? Like, we could do some really good stuff here." So I did. Um, uh, Jane liked the way that I work, so I continued to do that. So there I was in the April. I was hired on a 6 month 3 month contract. By the end of the year, I'm running the UK L&D department, which kind of took me back to the NatWest days where I'm owning the function again. But I'll be honest, Candice, I knew how to do training, but I didn't know how to run an L&D department. Fortunately, Jane provided me incredible cover. She was really clear about what her intention for the function was. She was really politically savvy. She pretty much guided me to do enough of the right things to build a bank of credit with the HR business partners, to get into the business, all the stuff that we talk about. So to take what might be a proactive L&D function where it's around a generic offering, because that was what was required before, to one that is closer to business leaders, that is more visible to them, so that it makes it gives the L&D, the HR team, more tentacles, like to feel as if we are closer to the business and we have a greater opportunity to make to build our credibility, to make impact. So things did work pretty well there. I was there 5 years in the same role, promoted to head of that was. Due to the amount that I'd grown the function and the remit as well. Again, working closely with my HRD and the other centres of excellence, doing enough of the right things to put myself into pole position when eventually the director of learning talent and OD decided to leave the organisation. And it was at that time, I think it was about 5 years, that I thought, I think I've got a good chance here. I think I've got a strong reputation across the business. And although that would be reporting into my boss's boss, I thought there might be something here for me. So that's when I started to make a few noises to him and to others, and to try to to position me as the natural successor. And I was fortunate that was very much the case. But as you can imagine, Candice, so for the first time in my career, for 5 years, I was in the right place, doing the right job, and I was doing the right things in that job to position me for that next move up.
Oh, yeah. That's so 5 years, and then you got into that next role. Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right. Yeah,
Okay. Okay. Um, wow. Very cool.
Mm,
All right. So, but during those 5 years, what did you learn to get you there? You know, if you were
mm,
talking to someone just starting out, or, in the beginning of those 5 years, what would you
mm,
say? What were the right moves you did, or even the wrong moves that you learned from that can help others be at the right place at the right
mm,
time with the right skill, all that stuff? Because that feels like a big task, but it's
mm.
definitely happens all the time. So, what
Yeah.
advice would you give?
So Candice, first of all, there was the admittance that I was very green in the role, and I'd never worked in I'd never run a learning and development function. I'd run the training part of a learning and development function at NatWest. So my approach was to be very collegiate, and I wanted to work closely with the HR business partners. Number one, I thought that was a savvy thing to do. That these people were anti fluffy L&D. They let me know in my meet and greets that they're not going to let me anywhere near their their senior leaders because they are the gatekeepers. L&D goes through them and then they take that on. That was when I first joined Disney in April 2006. Um, during that time, I got closer to them because I just thought there was a challenge there. I just thought, well, I actually like you as people. They were wonderful people, but they were really protective for a reason. So I just when I got the L&D manager job, I just say to them, is there anything I could do to partner with you? I just wonder whether we can make you two like two people when you're with your stakeholders. And they were like, well, yeah, that's perfectly fine, but you've got to do things the way that I say. I'm going, well, that's the way we'll learn. So there was a lot. I did it with a lot of humility, that this really wasn't about me. And I think that I was able to because I really truly had the backing of my HRD. I knew that I was her person that I brought in. There was no legacy. I think that if I'd have joined before her, maybe she would have questioned. But I do think she was incredibly open-minded as well, to help me to do that. I think that her being absolutely crystal clear about where we were, she was new to the role. She needs to build credibility. Um, she had a sixth sense about people and things that were a risk to her building credibility. And so she either guided you to make sure you're on the right path or discarded you if you were a risk to the function. And then the final thing that I did, recognizing that I'd come from a purely finance and banking background, which has its own culture, even though the different organizations I worked in had their own distinct cultures as well. Media and entertainment was a very different beast. So I just looked and at what other people did. So it was kind of role modeling. I'd look at people who were perhaps like me, who operated with confidence and seem to get a good response. So when I'm in meetings with them, I just become a student. Go, what is it you're doing? I'd go so far, Candice, as I dressed like them as well, to act like them. I'd try things on. I'd give it a go. I'd make it mine. I'd discard some, keep more others. And so I would at every level. So when before I got the manager job, it was like, right, what are the managers doing here who seem to have something about them and get the right things done? Then it was, what are the heads of doing? Then finally, what are the directors doing? And I was mixing in those circles. I had a couple of mentors. One of them completely informally, we'd just go for coffee. But I was a student of how they're making the culture work for them. And I never let that go. And I think that does come from humility. And you can't operate with a great deal of ego. It's almost as if you just got to go, I know if I admit that I don't know as much as I think I do, and I observe, but I act with confidence so that others believe me, I think we've got this. And to say I built a successful 8 years there, promoted 3 times in 6 years from advisor to director. And when I got promoted, and I said, wow, that was quite the journey. And I said to Francois, who was the VP of HR for EMEA at the time, I went, wow, this is quite something to be promoted 3 times in 6 years. He looked at me, right, and he was completely straight faced, and he went, oh, we need to relook at our. I'm sorry, I did a French accent. We need to relook at our promotion criteria. And he was absolutely serious. I was thinking, wait a minute, I thought this was congratulating me for my promotion, but he said we're going to have to reassess our promotion criteria.
Yeah,
I went, all
something
right.
is wrong here. Something is wrong.
Yeah, exactly. They might actually be right, but it was brilliant, and I loved working with him.
Oh, that is brilliant. Okay, while you were talking now, I picked up on one thing. You said you had mentors, and I
Yeah.
actually get asked this. I run that weekly learning and development lounge, and I get asked this quite a few times. How do I find a mentor? Who do I approach? How do we start that relationship? And you said I had this mentor. It was very informal. Tell me a bit about the people who have guided you. I mean, you've definitely mentioned a few, but in a
Yeah.
more formal capacity that wasn't necessarily your manager. And how
Yeah.
did you build those relationships? How did they start? Because going to someone and saying, "Can you be my mentor?" is a little bit like asking them to marry you. It's like a big deal.
Yeah.
It feels like a big deal. So how did you approach that?
So if I stay one, right? So there was a guy called Peter Etty, who was in sourcing and procurement at Disney. So HR was sat here, sourcing and procurement was sat there, and and I got to know Peter during my first 2 years there. He was always very affable. He liked talking football, so we connected over that. But when we'd see each other in the kitchen making coffee. But the reason I said his name here is that if Peter ever listens to this, he'll look and go, "I don't remember being your mentor because I never asked him." So, but I would. So Peter was, when I was manager and he was head of. I looked and went, I think I'd do it like that. Where he was really friendly, he was straight as a die, and when he was friendly, he didn't go over familiar, and when he was professional, he didn't go straight and impersonal. He operated these two parts that were really close together, and I thought that's how you do it. So we'd go to meetings, and he was really professional, but he'd have a laugh with people, he'd connect with them, but it would never go too far. And he'd wear jeans, smart shirt, always really sharp. I think he was the one that I looked at and went, "You're dressing for the level above you, not your level." And so there are all these things, and they sound superficial, but that's because the things I remember are those because they lasted. But there were the incidences in those meetings, the way that he'd come and he was planned. He'd sometimes be the most junior person in the meeting, apart from me, and then he'd lead it, and I'd be looking around going, they want to be led. They want him to take control. You're not stepping. So I was watching him. Then I'd go in, and I'd have a chat. And I go, "Peter, can I have a chat with you about a situation?" He went, "Yeah, come in, close the door." He had no idea he was mentoring me. And so
Yes.
that's what I
Oh, I
say
love
to people.
that story.
If you want to get the benefit of a relationship with somebody, don't name it. Get close to them, be genuine about it, and never waste their time. I think sometimes that mentoring at the wrong time with the wrong person with the wrong intentions is almost like a status symbol. I think that if you want to use it, you don't have to ask anyone. You just have to build genuine relationships.
Oh, I love that so much. And this is a great lead into a question I really do like to ask people is what are we not speaking enough about in the working world right now? If you're speaking to people, they maybe don't find their love, like you did with learning and development. What do we need to do more of? What do we need to say out loud when it comes to building a career that you love? Because, and I said it earlier and I say it all the time, you can actually love Mondays. That
Yeah,
is a actual thing. So
yeah.
what do we need to do more, speak more of, in your opinion?
So I don't know who needs to say it and who needs to. I think I know who needs to hear it. If I could get the ear of my 17-year-old self on the as a cashier, I'd say, this job you're doing, you are building skills. You Everything you're doing here has a point and a purpose. And then he'd go, I don't care. I'm just doing this as a job to buy another guitar. It would be to the other people around them saying, and do you know what? Maybe this comes with the patience, how patient they were with me. It's almost, if someone could have said, when you're being polite to those customers that you wish would just disappear, especially when it's nice and closed branch, and then a whole flurry of people come in and you look up and go, right? You're building skills. And these are the skills you're building, and this is how this will pay off in the future. So I think it's around when you're young, you just feel when you're at the bottom, you're just being trodden on all the time, and maybe that is the case at some point. But if you knew you were skill building, and you knew that those were rungs on the ladder, and that you were progressing in some way, then you wouldn't feel as if you hate Mondays, or you're wasting your time, or you're rotting in this job, or whatever it is. And maybe you'd advance up the ladder even further. I don't know who's having that conversation and whether the beneficiary is really listening. But I wonder whether on those days when you really don't feel like it, what are you still learning that's going to help you later down the line? Because like you, Candy, when Sunday comes along and I look and I go, I do actually really like Mondays. I love the people I work with. I can't wait to chat with the team, and I don't know what's going to happen on when I open up LinkedIn. It's kind of, I feel so lucky. But if I could have told 17-year-old David that what you're doing now is going to lead to that, but maybe faster if you knew what to do with the lessons, then maybe that would have been an easier time.
Oh, I love that so much. There's just this moment, and I don't know, on Instagram, and obviously the algorithm's learning me that I'm building a business, and so I get all these reels sent to me of, earn a gajillion dollars in like 2 days if you just do these things. I'm like, no, it takes time and effort, and the skill building, you alluded to it, it's not easy. Like we
No,
always say, oh, learning should be fun. Learning is actually hard.
yeah,
Like it's a
it
hard
is.
thing to go through. So when you say you feel like you're getting trodden on, that is your growth. And so
Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. And I want to pull that out and make everyone hear that piece. So that's awesome. All right. So we have a final question we ask all guests is to go all the way back in time, maybe to 17-year-old David. What would you thank yourself for doing then? And probably links very much, but what would you thank yourself for doing then that really set you up for where you are now? And it doesn't need to be 17-year-old, you can go anytime.
Yeah. I think it's going to be um, learning to play guitar and write those songs in front of that tiny tape recorder. Because if I hadn't done that, then I wouldn't have been ready when I passed my driving test to play guitar with all of those rockers. I wouldn't then have been in position to have led them onto stage. And if I didn't get a thirst for the stage, then maybe I wouldn't have wanted to do Robin's job. And it's that I was 13 once in a bedroom, and I didn't know how on earth I'd get onto the stage. And it was just doing the work then, believing. Going, what I said to you earlier, Candice, it was the weekends reading the training course outlines. That for some, there's the nerd inside that wants to do the work and be ready for the opportunities. And maybe that's what I've learned is part of the answer to my good luck story as well, Candice.
Oh, yeah, I love that so much. Just doing the work, believing it. Yeah, and following what you wanted to do, right? You said you wanted
Mm,
to play guitar. You knew when you were 5, so
yeah.
actually doing it, that's huge. All right, David, what do you do now? Who should contact you? Why should they contact you? Listening to this, everyone's going to be like, oh, I need to work with David.
So you'll find me on LinkedIn, probably via the Learning and Development podcast. But folks should contact me. My DMs are always open. Connect, have a read, see what I say. I believe that we've got a really important job in learning and development, and that is build proficiency and close skills gaps at scale. And if you're not doing that, if you feel that there's a gap in your understanding of exactly how to do that, then hopefully I could be a good person to come to.
Fantastic. Any last closing words you have, or are we ready to say goodbye?
No, Candice, this has been a lot of fun. I've had conversations and I've extracted memories that I don't think I've accessed for a long, long time. So this has been huge fun.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for having me on
You
your
have
show.
you have an excellent memory. All the names, all the years. Yeah, if you want me to shout out to someone, send me their link. We'll add them. So
Will do.
thank you so much.
Thanks, Candice.